every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. On this episode of ScaleUp Radio, I talk with Martin, Leonard and Graeme Thurman from Citizen Communications. And Citizen are a full-service marketing agency, and they cover all sorts of aspects of marketing within businesses, from basic content, print and digital through to events and exhibitions and all sorts of other great stuff. And we get a real full sense of Martin and Graeme and the challenges that they faced during their time at Citizen Communications. And Citizen is celebrating its 35th birthday this year. And some of the things we talk about are things like not to be over-reliant on one thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's something we've talked about in the past, so don't rely too much on one client, for example. If you don't love running the business, maybe it's time for you to do something else. And as you'll hear, even after decades in the role, both Martin and Graeme still love being an active part of the business, although the original founders of the business have since moved on. And making remote working work for the business, Martin and Graeme admit that it's been a challenge to make that work, but they've found a way to do it which works nicely with the team within the company. And as you'll hear in our conversation, the length of time that Martin and Graeme have been working together hasn't dulled their passion and their drive for bettering and growing their business. And I know that you'll get a lot out of listening to this. So without further ado, let's go over to Graeme and Martin. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Graeme Thurman and Martin Leonard of Citizen Communications. So Graeme is the commercial director and Martin is the creative director. So Graeme and Martin, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome, Kevin.
Yeah, great to see you. So Citizen Communications, there's a little bit of a clue in the name, but what's that all about? What do you guys do?
Well, Citizen are a full-service marketing agency, and we pinpoint our clients' pain points, and we can help turn adversity into opportunity by telling the right story. We offer support to new businesses to create a brand. We support our clients promoting their brand, and we help our clients refresh their brand. Offering traditional marketing resources, we formulate marketing strategies for the business and provide supporting data that helps track return on investment. We have digital marketing, which is also a key part of our business, and we can create, maintain, or simply fix clients' websites. And with the use of SEO and PPC, reporting can identify new areas for the business. And we also encourage the ever-growing social media platforms and help businesses identify the right platform for the business that's going to create the most impact and,
All right. So that
we also offer full house events and exhibition services, so we can design and build exhibition stands, from whether it be a single table with a backdrop to a duplex multi-room exhibition stand at the large UK or European arenas.
great. So you do a lot of things, as you said. You're a full service agency. So, and I think you've given a couple of examples in there, but typically on a day-to-day basis, what's it look like working with your clients? What sort of things are you doing?
We're developing websites at the moment for a couple of clients.
Okay.
We're working very closely with the council across their various cohorts. And then with our clients, we've got a lot of creative briefs in with studio at the moment for marketing materials, campaigns that are going on at the moment. Just recently finished one with EE, Bursting with Pride, which has just come into the Birmingham store this weekend.
Okay.
So it's very varied because our clients are so varied in themselves. We deal with blue chip FTSE 100 corporates through to one-man bands, local one-man band businesses. So
Brilliant.
our work varied all day, every day.
No 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
Whatever you turn up in the morning, think you're going to look at, never usually happens. It usually changes within the hour. So it makes it interesting. And like Graeme said, with our broad diversity of clients and our services, we really don't know what we're going to be facing every day. It's great.
Brilliant. And I believe you're celebrating a pretty big milestone this year, aren't you?
Yes, it's 35 years this year. I've been in the business for 24 of those 35 years, and so it is quite a special year for us this year.
Yes.
I mean, the company started originally with 3 Kidderminster College lecturers who actually designed the first HND visual communication course.
Okay.
And they decided, brave decision, they decided to practice what they preached. So they left education and set up a business, which is madness when you're in your mid-40s with all those holidays you can have, a stable salary coming in, So yeah, brave decision.
Are they involved in any way at all now, or then
they've all gone off to pastures now.
Yeah.
All still in poetry, aerobics teacher, clay pigeon shooting, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. They don't, to be honest, I don't even think they talk to each other either. I don't think they have much communications between each other now. I think they were together for the business then.
Brilliant. All right. So a long and varied history and a significant milestone in terms of 35 years. So what sort of things are you doing to celebrate those 35th year?
Good question. We're obviously trying to entertain clients quite a bit and sort of going out with clients and letting them know we've been here 35 years. Because obviously, because we've been going so long with someone like EE that we've been working with for 25 years of those in all their various guises. There's a new breed of people that don't know the history. So like last week, we took out Europcar, one of our corporates, and had a good chat with them. We took out EE and BT staff, and then we had a day for the staff at Worcester Races, which Graeme organised, and Graeme came out of it very well, and nobody else did.
You had some success on the GGs, did you, Graeme?
On the last race, I was a little bit fortunate, yes. So it was a good end to the day. Also, we've co-hosted a couple of events. Well, we've co-hosted one event with North Worcester business leaders, and we had a lunch after for guests there, just as a little celebration. And we're also co-sponsoring the North Worcester Business Leaders Awards Night as part of our ongoing celebrations. It's just trying to bring our clients and our staff together to celebrate the success of the last 35 years.
Brilliant. And you're also, I noticed that you've made some changes to your own websites, and you're inviting your visitors on the website to take a trip back in time, aren't you?
Yes, there's a different look to the website. We went back to the 80s, like when we started in 1987, and we get a real sort of cliched look at the 80s. And it's come out really well. And obviously there's a Pac-Man game that people can have a go at, and that's proving really popular as well. It's good to look back. It's good to look back.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Good. And while I was on there, I couldn't help but spot that you like to give yourselves some nicknames, or you got some nicknames. So I think I kind of understand the Big G, Graeme. I mean, I'm guessing where the origins of that come from. but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about the Muttley, Martin.
I'm not sure that's a staff thing. I think. I think for the people who can remember wacky races, I think it's when we have a laugh at work, which we do quite often. I think apparently I laugh like Muttley out of wacky races, so that sort of come from there. So can't live it down. Never mind.
Very good. So I think we'll have to try and make you laugh then while we're on the podcast. Good. So you've already mentioned some of the clients that you've got. So what makes you different? What is different about Citizen versus other communications agencies that are out there? Because I know there's one or two.
The size of Citizen helps. We're a lot more agile than the bigger agencies. So obviously we come across the agencies that the other agencies use and have many layers. And it slows the process down. Whereas we're a bit more agile. We've got client services that then go directly to the designers. So we can be a lot more agile and turn things around a lot quicker than the bigger agencies. And I think we're very personable. We're not, if you look at our values on our website, we are a no-bull agency. And I think people like to work with us. And that's why I think we've been going for so long and kept hold of a lot of our corporates and other clients for quite long periods.
And I think as well, one of our sort of house rules is, I know we work with big corporates, but one of our house rules is to treat every client as if they're our only client. And I think if you treat everybody in that way as though they're your only client, you're treating everybody the same, whatever size they are. And I think that's what a lot of our clients like, even though they know we deal with the big boys, they still get the same level of service from the people within the business when we're dealing with their account.
And I know from your slogan as well that you try and bring that small town agency feel, but with the big city mindset. He says, reading off of the big sign on behind you, Martin.
You do have to read that backwards, Kevin.
Very good. All right, you've taken us back a little bit to when the business was started by the founders. How about when you joined, Martin? That was back in before 2000, wasn't it? 1998. I think you've been with the business.
Yeah, 98. Yeah. I worked for a very small agency in Bewdley who used to do all the work for Citizen. So I was basically headhunted to sort of start a design studio, because at the time Citizen were a training video company, doing training videos for Hewlett Packard, Sony, Dixon Stores Group, which included PC World, The Link, and also Carphone Warehouse and Phones for You. So I was brought on board to build a design studio. So just me initially, and then within about 3 years, I think we built it to 5 people. The T-Mobile account was very big at the time. It was a very demanding account. And then obviously this was prior to sort of any sort of web side of the business. The website, our original web team started coming on board in, I think, 2004. And we then landed a big project with what was BlackBerry RIM research, I think they were. And we did a big 3-year project to build them a multi sort of logistics function across the whole of Europe. So that was one of the big changes for me, the start of the web stuff, because I was a traditionally trained graphic designer, drawing boards, magic markers.
Yeah.
Then gradually when Apple's came in, it was classed as the word was desktop publishing, which basically meant people were doing their own newsletters or whatever. So yeah, and then obviously I've seen the development of Macs and the software over the years, and it's just been phenomenal. And you see now, you talk to the guys in the studio now, they don't know what a floppy disk is, they don't even know what a CD is, optical disc, a SideQuest disc. You go through this list and they just look at it. So that's been really fun, to be honest, to see how it all developed. Yeah,
and what were you designing on back in the late 80s?
Oh, late 80s. Oh, late 80s. It was literally drawing boards.
Yeah.
Literally I don't think we got a Mac here in the building that was a 1987 Mac.
Right.
But obviously, I didn't start on Macs till I was at university then. So I started on Macs in about 1992.
Yeah.
So it was a big learning curve in those days.
Very good. So we've seen a lot of changes in the industry, obviously, as things mainly got more and more digital. Strategically, what do you think some of the big things, Martin, that have happened along the way that have either been great decisions that the business has made, or maybe with hindsight weren't so great?
Well, in hindsight, with the original directors, probably the worst decision they ever made was they'd had a good year, and the accountant went to them and said, "Look, you've got £30,000. You can put 10 grand into your pensions each, or there's a small little UK company that I strongly advise you invest in."
Oh dear!
But because they thought of pensions, I think it was being lecturers and the age they were, pensions are extremely important to them. So they said, no, we'll put it in, to the pensions. And that small UK company was Vodafone. So you can imagine the sorts of sums of money they could have made from. But it's hindsight, beautiful thing. Isn't it?
Yes, with hindsight, 2020 and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the big strategic things. I think one of the big things when we were heavily working with Dixon Stores Group, we were handling all the logistics for all of their stores, which is, I think, 700 stores across the UK, distributing CD-ROMs, video, training materials. And there was a lot of eggs in one basket.
Right.
That developed and developed. Luckily, T-Mobile one-to-one was developing in the background, but there came a day where all of a sudden Dixon's turned up one day and said, "We're finishing training supplies." So literally within a month, the whole of all that stuff that had been built up over the years. So that was a big period for the company.
A big lesson there in terms of having too many eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yeah, that was a big learning curve, that one.
And we'll come back to some more of those lessons. But Graeme, maybe what do you love about the work that you do? About the work that you do at Citizen?
Heathrow.
I just think the services that we offer gives us so much opportunity when talking to clients. We've got a particular client called Sim Local, and traditionally the business has just done some sort of simple artwork for them, a little bit of print. But obviously, when you can get face to face with the client and learn a little bit more about the client and what they're doing and what their plans are for their business, we were able to get involved in quite some substantial projects over the last 12, 18 months. And we actually were their I am their sort of go-to person now. And we refurbished 7 of their retail outlets in Heathrow Airport. So we became, we're known as a creative agency, yet all of a sudden I'm managing contractors and shop fitters and graphic designs, and the overall feeling within the business is that they class us as a partner now, because they know that we can just come to, and we're the go-to company that can help and sort things for them and get them a solution. And that's something that's come about just by building a relationship with a retail company that's enabled us to open up so many different doors.
How many people are there within the business in total? How many employees have you got?
It's 14, isn't it?
Yeah. 14.
Yeah, 14.
So how do you manage to cope then with that huge range of things that you're doing? As you were saying, Martin, at the beginning, not one day is the same as the next. And you've just explained, Graeme, that you're going down there and doing something new. You're managing some contractors and things. How do you manage to do that with a relatively small team of people?
Good question.
I think we've got a good mix of some very experienced people.
Yeah.
And one of our old phrases used to be, we're a team of individuals, and a lot of people can do certain areas of business, and there's 2 or 3 people that can handle certain services in the business. So I think, there's quite a few people with a vast amount of experience, and I think that's probably it.
Yeah, we are a full-time team of 13. However, over the years, we've got some huge resources built up from freelancers and things.
Right.
So we're always able to draw on our sort of bank of freelancers, if you like. So if our student is under pressure, we can bring some support in there. We've got copywriters that we work with. We've got freelance account directors and freelance account managers that we work with. So if client services are stretched, we can bring in, we've got the ability to bring in freelancers on short-term contracts that can support the business to enable us to, take on those bigger projects when they come up unexpectedly.
Brilliant.
Obviously, if we didn't have that, then yes, managing that as a team of a set 13 people, it is very difficult because we are busy. So we don't have that capacity to be able to be. And I think that's where it comes back with what Martin said here, how agile we are. We can react quickly to our clients' requests. We're able to act quickly and offer quick solutions.
Great. So you've got that core team in-house.
Yeah.
You've got the flexibility then in terms of the network that you built up over the years. And how do you keep that network current and fresh? Because I know there's a lot of people listening, building businesses that have a combination of an in-house and an outsourced or freelance type team. And it can be a challenge building it up in the first place, but also then maintaining those relationships, can't it, and managing them. So how do you go about doing that?
I think a lot of things also, another important part is our suppliers. We've worked with a lot of our suppliers for as long as we've worked with some of our clients. So, and of course, we pull into their skill sets as well, especially with production and various other things. So that's a very important part of us being able to function properly. Our supply, we like to work with people who think the same as us.
Yeah.
Tend to work with small, medium companies like ourselves, basically.
Okay, good. So you love that variety by the sounds of it, that it's always different. And once you get in with a client, you can be doing all sorts of different things. What sort of things frustrate you most about your sector then?
I think sometimes you can make a bit of a rod for your own back, especially with the big corporates. If you turn a job around quickly, the next time they want it quicker. Even if you work through the night and you've bust everything you can do to get there and meet the deadline, you sort of set a precedent for the next one.
Yes.
That's probably quite a frustration, because even if you stress, we'll do it as a favor this time because of this X, Y, Z, then that's it. It's almost like they've written it in stone and you're sort of, trying to move on. But that's probably a big frustration, I think.
Yeah, they always want a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And you mentioned big corporates. How do you go about managing the cash and the payments with big corporates? Because I know a number of our clients that we deal with struggle with the big corporates, perhaps on timelines of payments and things.
Yeah, yes. We have had issues in the past with the clients, because they're a big corporate, they, used to pay on 90 days, but we've managed to get that down to 60 days. And then some of our clients are on like a payment platform now where their invoices will go on. And if you offer a small discount, they'll pay it within 7 days.
Okay.
So that has helped. But yes, I think it's also part of our relationship with the clients that we deal with, that we do have the relationship with them where if there's a big project coming up, we can say to our clients, look, this is a big project. We're going to need a payment up front, or we're going to need, a percentage, a staged payments. And we have the flexibility of doing that with the clients as well. But yeah, it is challenging sometimes with the corporates but I think it's got better over the last couple of years with the experience of lots of businesses. I think the bigger corporates have recognised that the smaller businesses do need looking after because they don't have the cash resources of the big corporates.
Okay. So and how does the business model work? Are you billing by project then? You mentioned sometimes there you might, for a big one, you might bill up front a bit, but is it project by project, or are there services, packages that you have? How does that side work?
Yeah, a lot of our work is project by project, but we do have clients that are on monthly retainers as well. Because obviously one thing that we've learned by working with you, Kevin, and the BizSmart team is recurring revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's very difficult if you're starting every month on zero. So we've got clients on a monthly retainer where they can draw down hours of our various services, which works well for clients. We've got monthly contracts for websites and website management.
Yeah.
But generally, most of our work is, paid on a project by project basis. And going back to what I was saying earlier, one of the things that we do insist on now, because we have been caught out in the past, is when we help people with events and exhibitions, that is certainly when we start asking for upfront and staged payments, because booking an exhibition needs to be done in so many months in advance. You have to book the floor space, and our clients expect us to do all of that.
Yeah.
And then we're doing that on the 3 months up to the exhibition. And then we have to wait 60 days for our payments. It's 6 months of using our cash to fund their exhibition or event. So events and exhibitions are definitely done over stage payments.
Absolutely. Very good. All right. So what are some of the big milestones in the journey from when you've been involved? Obviously, one of the biggest milestones, Martin, would have been when you joined in 1998, I'm sure, and another big milestone was when you joined, Graeme, in 2019. But what are some of the milestones, maybe, Martin, that you've seen in your time?
Oh, good question. Good question. Obviously, the company was originally set up as a video company. A period where video sort of dropped off until the became more popular again with YouTube, and training videos have come back on song really well. But I think one of the key areas was when we started our first exhibition. That was a key milestone, because when you look back at how many exhibitions we've done since, and it was a pure accident. We did the first exhibition. We had a phone call from T-Mobile, who were down at Carphone Warehouse head office, which were 2 hours away. They said, "Can you come down straight away?" So we went, "Yeah, we'll come straight away." We didn't know what the meeting was about. We walked into the meeting. T-Mobile turned around and said, "You've just booked a space at the Carphone Warehouse, big event, Earl's Court, in 4 weeks. Do you design exhibition stands?" And we were, obviously, the usual side, we went, "Yes, of course we do." So we had they just spent £80,000 on the space for Carphone Warehouse.
Gosh. And
they booked a big space, and we'd never done an exhibition stand ever. So it was that old moment, you get back in the car and you think, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Yeah. But by the time we were back, we'd found a local supplier we could work with. We actually did the stand and won Best in Show.
Wow.
We built a cinema. It was when they were sponsoring the Rolling Stones 40 Licks tour, I think. So we built a cinema where people could go in and watch videos, popcorn machines, lookalikes, all sorts. And we won the Best in Show. And that was a key moment, because it was like we took a real risk, because we risked everything else we were doing for T-Mobile, because we were looking after their reputation within Carphone. If it wouldn't have gone right, it could have affected other work we were doing. So that was quite a key moment in the business. Obviously, the original partners leaving, they left sort of at various times. And that was quite key throughout, because funny enough, the youngest one left first, which I never worked that out. But yeah, that was a key moment. I was trying to think of other key moments in the business. Obviously, our former director, Charlotte, that was quite a key thing. Charlotte, she was with the company 18 years, and we took her on as an apprentice. Mm-hmm. And she came on as an apprentice. Then the day before she was due to start, the government had stopped modern apprenticeships. They literally cut them. So she phoned me up and said, "Look, can I still come?" I said, "Yeah, okay, we'll find something else." So we sponsored her through her degree, which we've now 2 or 3 other people, and we're doing one now with Georgia, aren't we? We're sponsoring her through her degree. And Charlotte then worked her way through the business to become a director and owner. So there's a succession that was happening through the business. So that was quite a key moment. It just proved to people there was progression, even though we're a relatively small agency in relation to other big agencies. It shows you could progress as far. It's up to you how far you progress.
Yeah,
and it was a nice thing to talk to people about. And people join the company, and you just sort of say, look, where do you want to be in 5 years? And hoping they say, I want your job. So
yeah,
that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping they want my job.
So. Well, yes. I mean, maybe we'll explore that a little bit, because how have you handled internally then with the original founders leaving then, and then presumably transferring of ownership and things like that? How has that worked within the business?
There was no planning as such. I remember an original meeting with the partners were saying, "Would you?" Because when I left college, when I started graphic design, I never had any vision of running a business. I just loved design, loved it, everything about it. And then gradually, as they never planned when they were going to retire. They never planned anything. That they were very, very sort of ad hoc what they did. And so every time one left, we were having to sort of mop up, and it was a mess really, because there was also a bit of, I want to leave on this amount of money, and they want to leave on, and it was messy, if I'm honest, which is why, we're now in with the BizSmart stuff to sort of do a bit more planning, and obviously the Smart 90 stuff allows us to plan long term and short term. So I think we've sort of, that makes us cope, to be honest.
Okay.
Can't go that again.
and yeah, I think that's a really good example you were saying there about Charlotte coming through from an apprentice and coming right up to being one of the directors and owners of the business. And I was going to ask you about the people side of things, and how do you find good people and bring them on board? And it sounds like you found one particular way of sponsoring people through university that seems to work for you.
Yeah, we've had numerous apprentices over the years, but with the apprentices, we found that maybe a year after they've qualified, they tend to move on. Like one went to become a musician, and in different areas, so it's almost like their apprenticeships. They're learning whether they want to be in that industry. Whereas if you put someone through a degree, that can take 4 or 5 years, so they become ingrained in the company as well. So that seems to work really well for us. And the big issue we always had, because we're based in Kidderminster, was getting talent from further afield.
Okay.
But one of the good things to come out of COVID and flexible working is that doesn't matter now. If you look at our staff base now, we're probably a 20-mile radius of where we are. And we could go further, to be honest. So that's been a real help with us being able to get quality staff, whereas we struggled before because of, the public transport to actually the offices wasn't that good. So luckily that's really helped us out, I think.
And has that thrown up any challenges in terms of managing a slightly more remote workforce?
I think we were very lucky from the point of view of we can always work remote because we all work on laptops. We're not in a production line where we've got to physically be somewhere. We have a lot of internal systems as well, like Slack, where people can manage each other. We're always having weekly meetings with the team, whether they're in or whether they're not in. Yeah. We're very flexible now with the staff on, we like them in 1 or 2 days a week, and it seems to work really well. So yeah, I mean,
we did struggle at the sort of start of all the working remotely when we stopping the sort of creative briefing get-togethers. So a client would give us a creative brief. First thing we would do normally in the office is, right, everybody, let's all have 15 minutes downstairs. Come into the boardroom, get the whiteboard out, get pens and paper. This is what the client wants. Let's all have 10 minutes. Then get the first sort of initial ideas from everybody. Mm-hmm. Then we leave it till later on in the day. Right, everybody, let's have another 10 minutes because they've been thinking in the background while doing their work. Yep. And that was very difficult
Especially with the creative team. I think that's.
And I think going back to your point as staff as well, I mean, we obviously try and look after our team as best as we can, but we do get people leave unexpectedly for all sorts of reasons. I mean, some people move on to aspire to work with a bigger agency. There's lots of, there's DRP Group just down the road from us that employ 300 people, and it's a whole different agency feel.
Yeah.
And then we get some people that leave to go and work client side. So it's very difficult. And that does raise issues then, because as quick as they're leaving, we need to find somebody else. And then and that process can take longer than the notice period that our member of the team's on.
Indeed, yeah.
But we've got, you mentioned earlier, we've recently done our website, and part of our website is the sort of traditional meet the team, but we've also now got a tab on there as a join the team. Just invites people to send their CV in, and it's interesting that the reaction we've had to that, and some of the CVs that we've actually got on file now that have, interestingly, they're there. We've obviously responded, said nothing at the moment, but we'll keep you informed, and we're starting to build a small, I'm not saying we've got a drawer full of applicants waiting to come and join Citizen, but we've got some that we never had before. Yeah. And that's that could help in future if we need to recruit.
Great.
As well, we're doing the apprenticeships, and we've got a young girl in studio. She's an ex-grad, isn't she? It's her first job.
Yeah.
So we brought a young person in to work alongside the team in the studio to learn and craft her career.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson about essentially always be recruiting, and you're building a people bank, essentially, that reserve of people that you might be able to call on if you suddenly need to. How do you keep them warm? Because obviously things are changing. So how do you keep those warm, those contacts?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because, we keep in contact with them, or they keep in contact with us, because we say, look, there's nothing at the moment, but there may be in the next 3-4 months. Yeah. But we monitor our staff that we have at the moment. Everybody's on timesheets, and we know what our productive labour content is for each member of the team. And, it helps us gauge when we do actually need another employee. But we then have got our bank of freelancers. Yes. So we would need to go to freelance before we'd go to job market. And then if all of a sudden we realise in 3 months' time we're still using this freelancer, that's when we start to think, there is a position here. This isn't a short term. This is how we grow the team.
Yeah. And would you then essentially offer that position to the freelancer?
We have done in the past, yeah, but generally the freelancers that we use are happy being freelancers.
Yeah. Yeah. And flipping that around, would you ever use the people in your people bank essentially and give them a little bit of work and as a freelancer and then test out their abilities that way?
Yeah, it's a possibility, but it tends to the people that we've sort of got in our bank of people are looking for full-time employment because they're either in full-time employment or, they want to move towards, into the area.
No, I like that. I like that idea. And that's definitely a good takeaway, I think, for everybody thinking about growing the business, is that idea of essentially always be on the lookout, give the opportunity for people to engage with you at any point.
Yeah, I think so. Because, if you haven't got that, then, if somebody is looking to work with your business and you haven't got that facility for them to be able to contact you and tell you they'd be interested in working for you, you never know, do you? Unless you've got a job advert open, and that's not very often, is it?
Yeah. So, Martin, how do you manage that creative process then? Because we like to talk in business, certainly from our perspective, about trying to systemize things, if you like, and make things repeatable. Graham's just given us a little bit of a hint as to how that creative process was managed before lockdown. But how have you changed that with more remote working then?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because obviously when we have a creative brief in, we've got a studio team of about 4. We'll try and pull in freelancers as well for the actual creative side of it. It's different project by project, because sometimes working with the big corporates, you're very, very brand driven. You know, you got your brand guidelines, you know what, you can't really push the boundaries. But then some of the smaller clients, we can go really to town, but it is about pulling in people, and I think you've got to be together to be creative. You've got to, whereas before, like with lockdown, though, everyone was working in silos basically. Yeah. And everyone, you know, whereas now, I know that the talk we did last week, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about having meetings while you're walking, having meetings somewhere different. You know, if you want to be creative, don't just sit in the same room, staring at the same wall, looking in the same window. Involve other people who may not be seen as a creative person, because they can throw something into the mix that, you know, a creative may not think about. So it's about, I think every creative brief that comes in is different, and you've got to treat it differently, and how we're going to deal with it. Another issue is probably that if you're going to have a creative meeting, try and have it earlier in the day. You know, don't have it at 4 o'clock when, you know, you've been bombarded with emails, and, you know, you've got to try and keep your head clear. Yeah. That'll be one thing that I think we really do try and avoid is, you know, having a creative meeting at 4 o'clock is not probably going to bring the best to it. Yeah. Yeah. Probably best 10 in the morning, people come in, cup of coffee, coats off, get in, bang. Yeah, very good. Anything you'd add to that, Graeme?
Well, I think the sort of creative meetings that I've been involved in with the team on occasions, it's a whole varied way. I mean, I've even seen Play-Doh come out on the table and little models being made, and you know, there's always traditionally the pen and paper, and somebody's always busy sketching away or scribbling away. So yeah, I don't think there's any set way how it comes together in the end, but it is a lot. I found it more productive when people are around a table chatting and, you know, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Oh, that's a great idea. What about this? And it just evolved quicker than all being remote. And okay, we can, you know, you can do the Zoom meetings, the team meetings, and you can all feel as though you're in a room, but you're not, because it's all just faces and chit chat, isn't it? You can't actually see what people are doing at the time.
You don't see the body language. You don't see the, you know, because in a meeting, sometimes you can see someone's being quiet, and you can turn around and say, what's in your head at the moment? Yeah. You know, they might not want to say it. However stupid it sounds, say it. Yeah. You know, some of the greatest ideas have come from people just saying something totally off the cuff. You know, so. And I'm genuinely fascinated in the whole creative process, and I would like to explore that a little bit more with you, because I've seen you involved in all sorts of different things over the years, actually, and everything that I've been to that you guys have run has had a level of creativity in it beyond what I would have kind of was expecting to see, if you like, including when I just logged onto your website, frankly, and saw the, you know, go back in time for the to 1987 option on the button on the front of it. So what do you attribute that to? Is it all down to you, Martin, or what would you attribute that to? No, I think it's because it's an agency thing. Everybody who joins an agency in some respect is creative. And so it's not, you can't just be down to one person. You've got to, and all the graphic designers that come through, all the web designers, all the time they're seeing things when they're walking around the shops, they're seeing things on websites. It all sort of comes into the mix. And I think it's just I think that's true. I just think anybody walking around, I mean, I have a horrible thing. I can't walk around a shopping centre without looking at signage, and I know Graham's probably the same. You're always looking at, you know, how they produced that, and you start pulling things and scratching things alike, and you can't help it. And I think as a graphic designer, you can't help looking at things typography, logo, even on the motorway. You know, a van comes past, you look at the logo, how have they constructed that? Most of them, you know.
And I think there's a difference as well. We've got graphic designers here and we've got web designers here. And you talk to those two, and they're classed as designers, but they're completely different designers. You gave them, if you gave our graphic designers and our web designers a similar brief, they'd come up with two completely different concepts, and that's what's been so good by involving everybody in the same room.
Okay, so one of those tips then, as well as doing it in the morning, then is to make sure you've got the mix of people in there, diverse mix that helps to
Not necessarily people you think you need in the meeting.
No.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, literally, like we've had, like I say, I'm going back probably 5 years. We had a lady who was basically she was our administrator, but we involved her in a meeting. We said, well, come in the meeting. And she came up with the idea that we took on a campaign. Great. Because she did it from a very different point of view from what we were looking at. And then we could turn it around and say, actually, that's a really good idea. So again, it's not always the people you think it will be. No, that's why I say get diverse people in the creative process.
So do you think we've all got creativity in us then?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, Graeme thinks he doesn't, but he has had some good ideas. He has had some good ideas.
You've had your idea today for the week, have you?
Done for the week now.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, good stuff. And when you're interviewing, then what do you look out for when you've got somebody new in front of you, a new candidate? How do you assess whether they're right for Citizen?
I think there's two things. There's obviously the ability and skill set, which we can deal with that with a brief. Set them a brief that we've already done and see how they tackle it and say, right, could we have put that in front of a client? Is that at the level that we're expecting? But possibly more importantly, will they fit in as a person?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that person, I know we say, are they a citizen?
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest bit to get out of people.
So how do you go about that?
I know how. I think when a candidate comes in, we don't just say, right, you come in front of the two directors, we give you a formal interview. We make them go and sit with the team they'll be working with.
Okay.
And so they'll be sitting with, and then we get everybody's opinion of that person.
Yeah.
No, and so it's as important for that person to be talking to our apprentice as it is to be talking to us.
Yeah.
So that full sort of, you know, exactly what that person we all feel like, and most people, it seems to work. So,
and you're actually then collating that feedback from the whole team, not just from one or two individuals. Yeah.
We don't tend to do very, very formal interviews either, because I don't think you get the best out of people in our industry.
Yeah.
We had one guy turn up once with a shirt and tie, and you thought you'd really better off turning up in t-shirts, ripped jeans and trainers.
Yeah.
You know, that's the sort of, you know, and you can read people's body language. You know, over the years we've interviewed so many people, and we've had, I think I worked out over the 35 years we've had about 70 odd staff. So with a sort of turnover, which I don't think is too bad.
That doesn't sound too bad. Just doing the mental maths. Yeah. So people tend to stay with you for a number of years. Obviously, Charlotte, you mentioned stayed with you for 18 years. You've been here for what, 24 years? Yeah. Yeah. Very good. All right. So one or two questions to just wrap it up, because we've had some really great lessons. Thank you. So if you're 35 now, if we wait another 5 years before we have our next podcast discussion with you, so you're celebrating your 40th, what has to have happened for you to consider those years of success?
Cool, that's a big question. I think a growth in numbers.
I think I was just about to say we are, and you know, I know you understand what I mean, and I'm sure people that probably listen to this will understand. We're stuck in a trough. We are in the 12 to 20 bracket, and we're stuck down in the bottom of that trough. And we spoke about it for a few years, 2 or 3 years now. Obviously, you know, it was what it was in 2020, 2021. But I think our challenge is still to climb out of that trough. It's growth within the business, and if the growth within the business becomes, you know, that adds on to growth within the team.
Yeah.
And if we get to the magical 20 number and be at the top of the hill, you know, and then I think that would be a good achievement.
Yeah. With a full senior leadership team structure.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. That sounds good. And from obviously you're in the world of communications and everything, but what works for you the best in terms of finding new clients?
Me personally, it's personal connections that have moved on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't class it quite as word of mouth.
Yeah.
Referrals and people who know about us, and if they leave a company, we stay in touch, you know, just to say how you doing, how's your new role.
Great.
I mean, I can use an example of a client we had at T-Mobile. She then left and she took us to ePay. She then took us to Labara Mobile and then Elite Mobile. So that one connection took us to 5 different companies, and we stayed with those companies even though they moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a lot of that about who your connections are, how you keep in touch with those people. If you go to a more sort of traditional marketing scenario, then you probably have to speak to Samantha.
Yeah. But no, I think most of our businesses refer. We have weekly new business meetings, and we've got sort of a dream client list. We've got an introduce list and an ignite list.
Okay.
So we asked all of our staff, which clients would you like to work with? And they gave all sorts of brands and stuff. Those brands are on the wall now as our dream clients. What we need to try to do now is look at those dream clients and how we can approach those dream clients. And if we get to the next stage of the process, it's gone from dream to introduce. So we're now introduced to that client. And then if we go to the next stage, it's ignite. And we move it along the wall upstairs in the office, and we meet there's me, Martin, Samantha, and the client services team. We meet weekly for a new business meeting, and we just go through, and there's sort of action points for each of us to take away to complete by the following week. Who's going to contact this? This is the email address. Who's going to make contact?
Yep.
And then report on the progress of that on the following week. And that has worked. And, we've got some interesting leads and some new clients from there. So, but generally when you've got some of the dream clients on our list, there's no, going cold calling on them is very, very difficult. So you're reliant on what Martin said earlier is people within our industry moving to other companies doing the same job, and then we getting in with them that way.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our first jobs was Europe Car. It was a very small, couple of £100 job.
Yes, 2-page DL.
2-page DL leaflet. And we did it, and that, and then everything else just evolved from that first opportunity. And that's what we find we just need that opportunity to demonstrate to the client how we work and how, going back to how agile we are. And then, we tend to be able to be very good at building and maintaining those relationships.
Very good. All right. Excellent. So 1 or 2 great ones to wrap up. Martin, if you were to go back to 1998, then what would you tell yourself? What would you do differently, maybe?
I think I would try and be more prepared for being in business rather than just trying to set up a design studio.
In what way? In terms of thinking about how you're going to make the business as good as it can be, rather than just the design side, or what do you mean?
Well, I never even contemplated working my way up through to being a director, or I was just there to build a design studio. But looking back now, I think I could have spent more time early on learning more about the business.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Graeme, anything you'd say about your younger self? I'm not sure if we should say 2019 or whenever another interesting point for you, but what would you say?
Well, I mean, I'm just old enough to go back to 1987, so I can go back that far as well. But it's easy to look back and have discussion points about what you'd do differently, because you know what's happened.
Yes.
And it then becomes hindsight. I mean, in 1987, I think what I would have done was borrowed as much money as I possibly can from as many people as I can, and gone and bought 3 houses in the centre of London.
Right. Yeah.
Citizen nearly bought a house in London.
So it's easy, to look back. It's difficult with hindsight. I think it's about learning by what you know, and working towards, like we discussed earlier. Love to get to scale it up and get to 20 employees and be sitting on the top of the hill rather than at the bottom of the hill like we have been for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
There we go.
Very good. All right. And 2 last questions. One last question, really. Any books or podcasts or perhaps apps that you found particularly useful that you might like to recommend to others?
Well, I mean, I'm not a big reader, so as a recommending books, there's The Entrepreneurial to the Scale Up by Kevin Brent.
Thank you very much. I wasn't fishing for that, but well done.
So Kevin, I've seen some sort of videos on YouTube, and some you've introduced us to some pods on our journey with you and the BizSmart team. I think the one that resonates with me is the captain of the submarine one.
Right, the David Marquette.
Yeah, and I think that's a great one. That if all of a sudden the leader doesn't say anything, what happens and what does everybody do? And
yeah,
I think that's one that resonates to me. But for my own recommendations, I don't have any
okay.
for you.
No, not me.
Martin? No?
I'm not a great reader either. It's weird. I think I'm a more visual person, when I look back at what books I've read, I can remember To Kill a Mockingbird, but that was to get me O-level.
Yes, yeah. I think I might have done that one as well. Any apps? Are there any apps that you guys use as a regular part of the business that you find useful?
Slack, which is obviously our internal communication thing, and also Asana, which is our sort of workflow piece of software.
Yeah.
That's probably the 2. I'm just looking at because they're on my first page.
2 main ones for the business. I know the communication one, Slack, which is great because it keeps your inbox from filling up with constant internal emails. Everybody communicates with each other on Slack, so it frees your email. And the Asana is the production boards, and it's very visual to everybody. We can see what studio we're doing, we can see what the digital team are doing, we can see what the client services are doing, all the jobs are progressing. So, even if we're not all in the office together, we can log on and see what everybody's working on and where somebody needs support.
Brilliant. Good. Well, thank you very much, both of you. If somebody listening would like to get in touch with Citizen, what's the best way for them to do that?
Drop us an email, give us a call, or knock the door. We're pretty open to, our office is open. Me and Martin are the traditional ones and tend to work from the office Monday to Friday, but anybody that wants to chat, then pick the phone up and give us a call, and we'll arrange a cup of coffee somewhere.
Brilliant. And what's the website address if people want to find you there?
It's sitcom, sitcom.co.uk. Quite simple.
Sitcom, so short for Citizen, but sitcom.co.uk. Brilliant.
Yeah, we couldn't get Citizen. Some watch company had already got it.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, Graeme and Martin, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio, or guests on ScaleUp Radio. today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Good to see you.
Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.